welcome to the B2B Academy podcast. Today we have a special guest, Teodora. She's a strategic and creative multi-channel marketer with an amazing experience in blockchain, blockchain-backed products, solutions, and fintech. I think it's rare that we can find someone with more than a dozen years of experience in this very new technological space, and that has such an amazing span of digital marketing, communication, content strategy, UX, and user behavior, and so on. So I'd like to welcome Teodora, but before that, I wanted to mention that at NNC Services, we provide valuable learning and growth experiences to business leaders through this B2B Academy project. This is actually our contribution to the business ecosystem, and we'd like to feature top business leaders sharing experiences and knowledge through coaching, training, digital events, and other types of content. I'd like to welcome right now Teodora Sevastru and ask her, maybe Teodora, please introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you, Loredana. So I think you kind of mentioned most of what I do. So I'm Teodora Sevastru. I'm a communication and marketing manager at the moment. Like you said, I had quite an array of expertise with marketing for the last 12 years. But currently I'm employed with this company called IOHK, which stands for Input Output Hong Kong. And they do Web3 solutions and products. One of the most known products that they delivered was the Cardano blockchain, which is one of the top blockchains that are present in at the moment on the market. And I'm not going to go into that part of the company, but the latest product that they're going to launch, and I'm assigned to market and bring to the market, is Light Wallet platform, which is a self-custody wallet. Means you hold your assets, you hold your keys, your data, everything, not like a third party. And it's called Lace, in the memory of Ada Lovelace, which is the daughter of Lord Byron and the first programmer, not just female, the first programmer in the 1800s. So as a tribute to her legacy, we just wanted to call the wallet Lace. And we're really excited to bring this to the market and tackle Web3.
It's great that you mentioned that, because we hear more and more about the Web3 landscape, data ownership, blockchain, metaverse, NFTs. And these are just some buzzwords, right, that everybody is trying to somehow comprise in their marketing strategy. But in fact, I don't think we have too many people like yourself that are specialized. So would you mind sharing for our audience, what's the difference between Web 2 versus Web 3, and what are perhaps some of the benefits of early adopters of Web 3 for that matter?
In the Web 2, we saw this rise of the consumer taking power in terms of user-generated content, and we saw social media rises. But it's always been this central element to it. It's always been big companies that are capturing data. So then you communicate and you do this exchange with your own data through this company, and you receive a product, for example. But we always say, if you're not paying for it, you're the product being sold. Exactly. So we see this in the Web 2. Well, Web 3 is something new, innovative. It's not utopic because it's starting to take more and more ground. And in Web 3, the attributes is you have a decentralized network where you push power and you push data to all the edges, and it's like a flat, decentralized landscape rather than being centralized that communicates to just different end consumers. Another thing, so blockchain in Web3 is a big thing. Blockchain is actually an enabler of the decentralized web, or Web3. In Web3, people are owning their own data. So this is where data ownership is not just a buzzword, but it's becoming more and more desired. Since like the era of Cambridge Analytica, where everyone was a bit in a, ow, what happened? And everyone is a bit freaked out about, the social media and what they posted and how was that used against them. The data ownership and data ownership products have been seen taking a rise. And such products, for example, are even browsers, like you have Brave browsers or Edge, where you can stop all the cookie tracking, all the analytics. You own your own data. Also, like I'm representing a wallet. Yeah, the wallet platform is you have, again, your own data, your own assets. So you do not give that to any other third party. It's your own. And data ownership for marketers is something quite interesting, because we were used to like looking to Google Analytics, right? And you analyze it, or you have all this programmatic or Facebook pixel that tracks people. Some might think this is going to be quite difficult for marketers to tackle, but data ownership is actually a good thing, because you have a more targeted consumer. People will be, if you have a good story, so if your story is good as a brand, as a product, people will be willing to give you the access to their data. So I'm going to give you the Brave example. In Brave, you can choose which ads to look at and which ads to, let's say, target you, because maybe you like the product, maybe you like the company. So that means it creates actually a higher loyalty and conversion rate, if we think about it in that way. Yeah, and as you said, a lot of other aspects. So blockchain is, like I said, an enabler in this landscape, but also I think it's one of the biggest CRM system, because what happens in the blockchain, you do not know the identity of someone. But since everything is on chain, means everyone receives a copy of that ledger, everything is public, then you can analyze different trends or consumer behaviors. And ultimately, this is what you're interested in. Not necessarily knowing, I don't know, John Doe, but understanding what cohort does what when. So this is something that it can be quite interesting for marketers. Yeah. And I think you also mentioned NFTs. Yes, this is definitely the latest buzzword, especially since 2021. So NFTs are essentially pieces of data that are stored on chain or in a blockchain. And they can be anything. At the moment, they're very known for being digital art. So for digital creators, this is a great opportunity to express themselves. And what NFTs are, they're not just like stored on the blockchain, but they also have a few attributes like being unique. They can be seen as rare, they can be resold. They represent their own value. So a music album can be an NFT because it's its own value. But then you can transact it. And beauty of NFTs is that it has a high liquidity and it's a global product. So I think for what's interesting for Web2 or traditional companies is approaching the NFT space with an open mind, that it's not just like, I don't know, a silly figurine that people pay loads of money for and congest the network, but you can actually transform anything you want. Maybe you want to create a new product and it will not cannibalize your other products in the traditional marketing. It will basically be a whole new sector, a whole new market, because there's the classic example of Apple when they released the iPhone, it basically killed the iPod. So this is not doing that. This is basically opening a traditional company to a whole new space of consumers and trends. And it has instant reach, instant global reach. It doesn't have any supply chain, and it can be literally anything. So you can bring value to your portfolio and just tackle a new market segment. Yeah, and metaverse, this is not something that I've necessarily developed any experience in, but this is something that I'm really looking into 2023. And I think with the metaverse is So what is a 3D immersive space, right? With you have like virtual identities and you have avatars, but it's a clean slate. You enter the metaverse and you can do whatever as a consumer or as a brand. You can literally do whatever. Your imagination is the limit. So with the metaverse, we've seen loads of big brands, but also with NFTs like Nike or Coca-Cola or Louis Vuitton, or, you know, like the array is quite large. They've done loads of like from fashion shows to product launches to exhibitions or launch, for example, a new shoe. So everything is just possible. And then you have a whole new experience for your customer. And I think this is quite interesting. And I definitely want to look more into it in the year to come.
Thanks so much for sharing. I love how you can simplify these concepts, which for some people seem so technical. And so, you know, when someone gets into explaining what blockchain is and how you can use it and so on, sometimes you get like a headache, right? So I love how you were able to streamline, you know, and just in a matter of a few minutes explain so simple, and not just what it is, but also how you can leverage that. So thanks for sharing this amazing advice. And for example, as marketers, we already see some of these challenges regarding like privacy, right? Google already announced the cookieless world. So we won't be able to basically track people or remarket people or things like that unless we have huge audiences already stored in a database somewhere, which is, you know, just available for the big guys up there. So I think that the way you mentioned we can leverage this Web3 trends, it's really great, because we are actually actively looking for solutions, and the small and medium-sized companies, they should adopt this new trends, not wait for the big guys to catch on, because they can actually, this is one of those shows where they can get and one of those waves that they can ride into the future. So thanks again for sharing all of that. I'm sure you have a ton of other ideas of how we can leverage that as marketers. Do you also see some challenges, like when tackling this new markets, or at least using this, let's say, new strategies, new tactics to go to market? Are there specific challenges that you are confronted with?
So I think is not per se in the product that I represent, but as a whole industry, the whole industry of blockchain, for example, or the Web3 is still facing loads of very gray areas in terms of like regulations. They're also affected by negative news, because let's be honest, they're bad actors in all environments, like on all platforms. It's not just like crypto blockchain, it's literally social media as well. How many cases we have there. So I think it's still like that adversity, or maybe a bit more reticence from people to adopt. So yeah, this is something that I've seen, because our product, the Lace, we literally want to take it to mass adoption. And when I say is mass adoption, I mean everyone, everywhere, regardless of the background. So I think this is something that we'll need to work with regulation across, I don't know, regions. Also, what kind of messaging and PR we're doing, what kind of communication and what words we use, because you don't want to be penalized. And also, I think from a tech or from a coding perspective, it has to be like top-notch secure, because if anything happens, as we've seen loads of news in the lately with different crypto or, you know, Web3 companies that go tanked or they got hacked and loads of money got out. But in a way, to our advantage, many of these companies were crypto exchanges, which means they keep your assets, essentially. They do keep your assets. What we advise is moving to, like I said, a self-sovereign non-custodial wallet or space where you hold that, so there are less chances of hacking. So yeah, there are loads of challenges, but at the same time is loads of excitement, especially that when you try to merge the traditional marketing that I grew up with, basically, and I developed my whole life. And now is how do you talk to a whole new space? But this is one strategy that we're looking at, is like communication, and definitely bringing more clarity to people that they don't need to understand blockchain. They don't need to know, because they don't know how internet works either, but they need to understand what the benefits of the blockchain or of the decentralized web brings to them. And I think the strategy is definitely having content. Is for example, I'm also in charge of the content strategy with this wallet. So the content that we've opted for is to be as explicative as possible. There's very little jargon. Do not dive into like tech savvy stuff, but talk in an open and friendly way, inviting, educative. And we even chose like the brand itself is very lighthearted. The tone of voice is very friendly. The colors are, bright. So we don't want to go into another basement of coders, and we want to appeal to people, basically. So that's one strategy we looked into.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing. I guess it is this space. It's full of very deep technical conversations, right? Pretty much everyone that we speak to about it on how can we adopt it and so on. And for example, I recently was talking to someone that's keeping their contracts on blockchain, and just getting that information out of them, it took like an hour of explanation and understanding, okay, finally I got it, I know how you're doing it or something. And I think that it is a challenge with early, let's say, adopters of technology. In terms of market segmentation, did you notice anything in particular? Like maybe are the younger people more, open to this, to adopting things like wallets or things, or what have you noticed in terms of, market adoption and who's ready to take this over?
Yeah, sure. So I'll tell you one thing 100% is I think we've seen maybe 99% men, and that's no news to industry. This is like I don't know if it's a problem per se, but it's definitely everyone's observation across the whole decentralized web. But leaving that aside, for example, market segments, we've definitely seen more adoptability from people beginning 24 until maybe 44. So there's actually quite a big chunk of people that are interested, men. But there also are a few smart women out there, and there also are quite a few women who are impressive at what they do and are active in the communities that they run. And we just want to support, me personally as well, want to support more of that and see more of that in the space. And I think what you've actually touched on something before when you said that it was so tech savvy and it was an hour of explanation to understand what you've done. But this is a challenge that I am also on a mission to solve, but is basically to abstractize the blockchain terminology and to make it as easy and understandable as possible. Maybe even hide it, like for example, Nike. I think they launched a platform in. I don't want to be wrong, but it's called Swoosh. I think it's a new platform for the community, and it's in the decentralized web, but they use basically no terms of that. Like if you didn't dig deep enough, you wouldn't know. They actually are using NFTs and they're using, I don't know what. But you wouldn't know. So that's one thing that they've done really well is people don't really care about it. They just want to see the benefits and the products and the speed and be on trend. But they don't really want to know all the jargon and all the mechanics behind it. Like we don't know that how the internet necessarily operates, do we? But we use it every day and we enjoy it and we make the best out of it. Yeah. So segment wise, I think it's literally, like as I just said, it's mostly men and it's mostly the Western parts of the world. But nonetheless, we also seen, for example, Ukraine in a big rise, and they even launched their own NFTs to support their country throughout this war. And people could launch, they're really tech savvy, and I was quite impressed with their initiative in such harsh conditions, where they launched, the governments supported the launch of NFTs, so people can buy and sell them, and for the funds would go to buy military equipment and food for the country. So I think that's something quite interesting. But mostly it's Western society that's on it. With the wallet platform that I represent, Lace, I know I'm beating the same drum when I said that we want to be for everyone everywhere, but this is something, and it's a new concept that we're working on. It's called RealFi, which means real finance. And that translates into people from even the non-banked backgrounds have access to lending platforms, or they can build something without the interference of a corrupt or collapsing state government, bank, whatever. So enabling people from really poor, harsh conditions to have access and thrive with the help of the community. And this leads me to another, if you want to say like another buzzword, is the community, which is the core of the Web3. I'm just going to stop, sorry, my notifications. So the core of Web3 is also the community. And the traditional marketing, you have a company, and then you have investors, and you have consumers, and you have your product. But in the Web3, everything like with the web and the data, it gets quite flattened. So a consumer or any of these actors can be any of the other actors. Like you can be the investor, and you can be you can also buy the product, so the consumer. So you can just metamorphose in this whole state of all three or all four states. And this is something that we push forward, the community. It's basically, if you enable, for example, a self-sufficient marketing framework, they would do all the work because they're so keen and they're so loyal. The community is not just like you throw away a word. The community is literally something that keeps that product in the Web3 alive. Mm-hmm. And we want to enable various communities, not just the ones that like our product, but we want to enable and empower other communities that are, for example, in the African landscape, or they're in, they don't have access to the financial power that Western societies have.
Thanks so much. It's amazing. So I love how you have this very strong mission at the individual level to demystify the tech jargon around it. And you are definitely right. Like, of course, I'm going to look at the ingredients if I consume something, right? But for example, how many of us know on what technology is, I don't know, this video conferencing software built? Right. Yeah. It may be on blockchain, or they may change it and move it to blockchain while we talk about it right now. So definitely, I believe that there is probably with every new stuff, there's also a bit of a hype around the new technology being used, like the low code, no code, or things like that. We just had a guest from that type of technology. But it's exactly that what you're mentioning, like demystify the technology piece so that we democratize it for the world and it's easier to use. And then this transition from the individual that can understand better and adopt easier these new technologies, all the way to the community that can be more empowered. And also I love this piece of decentralizing basically everything, and owning basically your own experience, owning your own assets, owning and not be reliant on old frameworks, right? That come even before web, like the old banking system, all the old, I don't even know why we're using that. Like, I'm always surprised when people tell that they lost the money because they were keeping them in banks and it depreciated 30% from last year. I'm like, and what would you expect, right? It's an old framework. It's exactly.
But even banking, as we know it now, they definitely, all of them have departments in adopting blockchain, and they're seeing the benefits. The downside is, I guess, they're using for their own, their own advantage, because they're going to use private blockchains. So that means no one can see what's happening behind the curtains.
Yep.
But they definitely see the benefit of it, and they definitely see that this is getting more and more traction as we speak and we progress. And I think we're not very far away from the Web3 to be fully implemented, or we're indeed at the beginning, but with the craze of NFTs, I think this is literally unlocked. They just unlock the door for people to get more and more curious about it.
Yeah, and pretty much everyone I know wants something, to own some sort of a digital art or some piece. Even my kids were telling me the other day that they're looking into building something. And this definitely caught everyone's attention. And I think that the new generation that comes without our sort of maybe old school mentality, let's say, of things needing to have like a physical correspondent or a physical object or something, that they actually value intangibles. Basically, I think that's a huge difference, even in terms of buying something or acquiring something. I was looking the other day that there's a study that just came out on, by age, what are people buying online, and you can definitely see
that's cool to see.
It's like younger people buy everything online. Like, even they have no issue paying, for example, for content online or things like that. While the more you progress throughout the ages, you would say that I would rather pay, let's say, a service like Netflix rather than to pay my cable, right? It's because on Netflix, I have all the content that I need myself. I don't watch news or something. And every once in a while, I just want a movie. But for example, my mom's generation or other generations,
they're like the TV, right?
They're like, you have to have cable. When she was visiting me, why don't you have cable? And I'm like, I'm not using cable. Why would I pay for that and not pay something online in the cloud? I can watch it anywhere, and
not on your phone, right?
Exactly, and not just necessarily be at home or something. So it was rather interesting, this difference. I guess the same thing happens to all of these Web3 technologies that you've just mentioned. There's so I have to ask you this, but there's definitely something interesting. First of all, 12 years ago, nobody knew and was talking about this. So the fact that you have...
Wait a second, I need to correct you. I haven't been a blockchain marketer for 12 years, because this was just like the beginning. I started my career in marketing for 12 years. I've been in the space since 2017.
Okay.
So 5 years. And
the 5 years in this space is a lot, right?
Yeah, it's like light years.
Exactly. What were some of your defining moments? What led you historically to that? Are there any specific experiences that drove you to this very tech-heavy space? And
women have tech space.
I love the tech space as well, so I kind of get it. But I guess I also came from. I was also driven sort of naturally, because I own also agencies that work with tech companies. So probably it kind of naturally, we followed the customer and the customer went there. And in your case, what was that, professionally defining moments, let's say?
I remember I moved down from London to Brighton, and I was actually looking for a job because I made a transition in my career. And while I was searching for jobs, I was actually also hearing some of my male friends talking about Bitcoin and everything like that. And I was like, okay, I heard about it before because I used to work in finance, and I knew what it was, but I didn't know much more about it. So then I started to investigate like what's crypto, because I had some time on my hands. And then I realized that the cryptocurrency is literally just like the tip of the iceberg of what the technology can bring and disrupt from an array of industries. So with that, I think it was just like a ball rolling. And then, yeah, here I am today. I initially started with a company that were doing ticketing on the blockchain, because even in the ticketing space, there was like loads of like counterfeit and loads of fraud. So we started that. I started with that, and then I did some vlogging about blockchain and crypto. So then here I am today. But it's always something new to learn. There's always new things coming up, and you always have to keep pace with it. I'm not like a guru of blockchain, but I definitely try my best to be with the trend.
What did you do when you started learning about, all of these, crypto and so on? You said that you had questions about it. Mm-hmm. Did you go through specific classes? Was it all self-research? How did you gather the knowledge that you have?
At that time, there was not much of like courses and classes, because it was still a fairly new domain. So what I've done is literally did research on my own, watched loads of content creators on YouTube. Also, the Twitter space is very good for the decentralized or the Web3 community. That's where you get your news. And then if you join Discord, that's where you kind of like Discord and Telegram. This is like where you create your community and you belong to certain blockchain communities. I even organized blockchain events. So there's like, it just led me through so much more than just being part of a Discord channel. It actually created a career for myself that I really enjoy. But now, if people look, for example, on websites like Cambridge or edx.org, you can definitely find loads of courses sponsored by Imperial College, by Oxford, by Cambridge. There's so many universities that now understand and provide like courses, but they're also teaching them in various universities. Like, for example, our company is very much of evidence-based technology. So we do endowments in various universities and educational bodies across the planet. And one of them was Stanford, and the latest was in Edinburgh, where we endowed the blockchain lab, and to pioneer or to do more research on the zero knowledge technology. But that's like the whole, I'm not going to go into tech details because I'm not much aware of them. But yeah, there's much more educational, I guess, content out there. And even you can get a diploma or at the end of it than when I started. At the moment, I don't really feel like I need a diploma, but because my experience is there, so I don't have time for it.
You were self-taught, and you probably can write some of the manuals that people should study from, since you're doing this for a while. Now, we're getting close to the end of this conversation, and I have to admit that I have still a ton of questions left, and as we talk, more questions are coming up. So I'm sure that and I hope that you'll accept to be our guest again, because usually when we post this, we get a ton of questions back and people being curious, and I'm sure this is a hot topic, so we're gonna get even more curious people to ask us questions for you. So I wanted to ask you, can you please tell us what's your blog, because you mentioned your blog, and we'll link it in the in the notes below. So what's the name of your blog?
I had a vlog called Coin Girl, but I haven't been active in very long time. I kind of shifted my image, if that makes sense, from then. At the moment, I don't write anywhere except in my company's documents, which are quite a lot. And it takes a lot of my time. But but I like to actually incentivize or have people take a look at our registration website for LACE. We're actually running a beta program. It's called Explorers Beta Program, and people can just like put an email address, and we are randomly selecting people. I think the next cohort we're going to choose is maybe next week, 1,000 people from our database to get instructions and give us their feedback of what they think about this wallet. So yeah, this is something that I think is more of a fair call to action from my side.
Okay.
And I'll definitely send the link.
Great. So if you can send us the link, we'd be happy to share it further. How about your, like a person like you, I think never sits on the side of this new emerging technologies, but you're always looking like 10 years going forward. What are some of these new things that you're looking at? I looked on your LinkedIn profile and you were saying stuff about sustainable investments and green finance and stuff like that. What are some of this new stuff that you think we should also take a look at?
So yeah, I'm definitely a big environmentalist, and before people will jump with questions about blockchain is actually detrimental to the environment, I actually represent a blockchain that is proof of stake, which means there's no mining, there's no computational power, which will destroy energies. It does the opposite. It's actually one of the greenest blockchains that there is at the moment. So that was this aspect that attracted me to work for this company. And yes, I did do a course from Imperial College on environmental social governance, and definitely something that piqued my interest. As we know, the world is not in a very good state. So I think one of my personal, but also professional goals is finding ways of implementing green finance and green initiatives or positive social impact on what I do for work. I think more and more companies will have to be involved in this ESG strategies. More companies are creating frameworks for companies like to implement these strategies, and they have to take into consideration. If you look at all the pension industry, the insurance industries, they all need to include into their risk portfolios different climate factors, which they haven't been included so far, or they will have to explicitly say where do they invest people's money. And some of the people might not want to have it in oil and gas, like myself, which I retracted my different policies from wherever that was the case. And I see a trend in more and more green finance companies emerging, especially that definitely will make sure that your investments are put into renewables and sustainability. This is something that I can foresee in the future. And by the way, blockchain or decentralized web and green finance or sustainable landscape definitely merge, or they can go hand in hand. Not my company, but other companies are doing, for example, carbon trading NFTs. So companies can trade, there's the carbon trading market. So yeah, you can also do that with NFTs, and then you empower more and more industries. So I think there will be more and more merge of this too, because there's no other way. If we don't do something now, and with technology, it has to be somehow the savior in a way of what we do, and we need to change behaviors, and technology has a habit of changing behaviors.
Yeah, what I love about technology, and we mentioned technology today like it's something very advanced, right? But in fact, ages ago, technology was the fork and the knife. And then ages ago, technology was the hammer. And ages ago, technology was the knife, with the metal, wooden knife or something. So that technology is actually the tool, right? The tool for what? If the needs of our world today are to go greener, to go, in all of these different areas where we need to go to survive and thrive forward, then technology is the tool, and we should use technology for that. Teodora, thanks so much. Any last thoughts? Any last advice?
That was my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me, Loredana. It was very good to be here. And hopefully we can do this again.
For sure. Expect me to reach out many times. How should people get in contact with you? I'm sure there's going to be like a lot of questions and thoughts following this conversation.
Okay. Well, my LinkedIn page is available for this kind of inquiry. So yeah.
Okay. Thanks again, Teodora. I really appreciate all of the thoughts and advice you shared. And thanks for your time. And I hope that we will see each other again soon on another show with a ton of questions from our audience. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you so much, Loredana. Bye.
Bye.